Okay, so is anybody here familiar with VanDerLande? VanDerLande.
Oh, yeah.
Like, so about half of you. Okay, so for the other half who are not familiar with it, every time you go to an airport, your bag goes on a VanDerLande conveyor belt, behind the scenes, what you don't see. So they make conveyor systems for airports all around the world. So VanDerLande came to us and said, okay, so how do we become cradle to cradle? And again, the question we asked was, okay, what is the product intended to do for the customer? And in this case, of course, the customer, because it's B2B, also included VanDerLande itself, but also its customer airports. And the first thing that became clear was, can anybody tell me what the main operating cost of conveyor systems is for customers, like airports? Anybody?
Electricity.
You got it. That's correct. So the main operating cost is energy. It just so happened that the material that they were using was PVC, which requires a high tension on the rollers. And a cradle-to-cradle certified polymer doesn't. So by replacing the material, VanDerLande was able to save more than 50% on the energy costs in its system. Can you imagine? So materials equaled energy savings. Nobody thinks about that. When everybody thinks about reducing your energy consumption, you know, you always think about, well, things like reducing friction, of course, but you don't think about changing the materials to cradle, but that's exactly what happened. And so the result of that was, oops, what's that? There. Savings of 50% plus on energy use and cost by using C2C defined materials. So this stuff here. So, and we got rid of a problematic material at the same time, because you can imagine with all the wear and tear on these belts that you get these tiny PVC microparticles coming off, which is a hazard for workers and everything else. We completely eliminated that problem. So we improved safety in the worker place, we improved the cost for customers, and we got a better product. Absolutely amazing. The other thing that happened was that then they started thinking, okay, how can we apply this to other things? And they basically got rid of all the toxins, you know, which is really good. They used biodegradable grease, which was really good. But they also used a modular system that was designed for disassembly to be able to get the stuff back. But what happened when they did that was they discovered that they had a modular system that could more easily be dropped in to the existing conveyor systems. So you didn't have to close down, for example, you know, your whole conveyor system in order to, or you had a much shorter downtime for replacing your parts, because these are modular. So you can just drop them in. And when they made it modular, they saved more than half of their material costs. So it's a lighter, faster, cheaper product, all using the cradle-to-cradle design principles. And I have to confess, it wasn't all us. They entered into an agreement with EPEA, and for those of you who don't know what EPEA is, it's the cradle of cradle-to-cradle. It's the scientific institute that has existed since 1987, based in Hamburg, and we have a subsidiary in Eindhoven, in Netherlands, and we have offices in other parts of the world as well. But we basically we looked and we said, you also probably need some advice, you know, from engineers. So they actually went out and worked with another Dutch company as well to look at some of these design questions, and they took them through this process. So it was the integration of the concepts provided by APEA, the chemistry and materials expertise provided by APEA, and the design and industrial engineering approach provided by other partners. So this was a really fantastic collaboration that we ended up with. And for those of you, how many industrial design students do we have here from Twente? Okay, so for those of you who are into industrial design, it doesn't get much better than this. You know, I mean, this is really a fantastic example of practically applying cradle to cradle in the workplace to generate added value for your customers. Are there any questions on this before I go? Feel free to interrupt me at any time. No? Okay. So, that is VanDerLande.